So you want me to go through all of this from the very start?
Yeah.
Excellent, okay. So this is the ski snowboard rental normalization task. And first thing you've got to do is you've got to use your unnormalized form, which we're going to copy out in a second. And we're going to turn that into first, second, and then third normal form. So the first thing you've got to do to go from the unnormalized form to first normal form is to find all the single valued attributes, keep them in the top table, find all the multi-valued attributes, and move them to a separate table, and then link them with a foreign key field. So to do this, I would just go through and identify anything that's got multiple values. Okay, like that one. I'll use a better colour. That one, date rented, return date, total cost, shop. Now because shop is multi-valued attribute, it links to this shop name down here. It's the same field. So address is multi-valued, town is multi-valued, and contact number is multi-valued. And so that gives us our separation. So in the top table we have got customer name, customer ID, customer address, and customer telephone number. And in the second table we have everything else. Okay, so now we've got our first normal form, or we've got the split. We can underline our primary key again, which is customer ID. And the second table, it doesn't have a key just now, but we need to link this table to the original table. So we have to take the primary key and copy it as a foreign key down the bottom. And I'll just keep it blue at the moment. Make it the right size. Okay. And then we can underline it. Sorry, we can mark it with a star, and that makes it a foreign key. The last thing we've got to do is make a compound key in the second table, and so things which will identify a unique record for equipment. So you would need your customer ID as a primary key, equipment ID is also a good idea for a primary key, and date rented, because you always go for a date if you can. The reason we've gone for date rented and not return date is that return date might be blank in certain situations, if you've just rented the equipment and you haven't taken it back. Okay, so for second normal form, what you have to do is focus on the whole key, and so that is, if I just underline again, the primary key fields. We've got equipment ID, date rented, and customer ID, which is a primary key but also a foreign key linked back to the first table. And so in the second normal form, you look at the second table. The first table doesn't change. The second table splits in two, and it only splits in two depending on which, if any of the non-key attributes do not relate to all parts of the composite key. So in this example, the equipment ID has a type, okay, and that type relates directly to the equipment ID, but it doesn't need the customer ID or the date rented to be unique. It only needs equipment ID. So at first glance, that should come out. The cost per week, well, the cost relates to the equipment ID itself in this situation, but in normal situations you might get discounts for special customers. It might be a special offer for that week. So in certain situations, like in real life, cost per week might stay with the table, but because it's directly linked to equipment ID, in this instance it comes out. Date rented is there. Return date, well, if you take something out, you need the date rented, you need to have the customer ID, you need to know what you've rented, so the return date links to all three fields. As does the deposit and the total cost, because that's where the total cost is applied. So the cost per week is the total cost is calculated using the cost per week and the deposit. The deposit is part of the main sort of compound key table, so the total cost has to be there as well. Shop name, shop address, town and contact number, it comes out because along with equipment ID, each equipment comes from different shops, so it relates just the equipment ID, it doesn't relate to the customer or the day rented. Okay. And so now you can see we've got in blue return date, deposit and total cost because they relate to the compound key. But type, cost per week, shop name, address, town and contact number come out because they only relate to equipment ID. So we have to remember and add equipment ID as a key field. So it's the primary key. And to link these two tables back together again. So because the third table, the new table, has an atomic key, and this is where you would hold all the details about the equipment, this is no longer the location of the equipment information. This is a link to the table, so that this middle table becomes a foreign key. And so you have, instead of 2 tables, you've now got 3 tables. You've got 2 compound keys instead of 1 compound key. You've got 3 primary keys instead of 2 primary keys. But the important thing is that the foreign keys are always in this central table. So this is like the center node of a network, like a server. And these 2 are the ones connecting to it. Very quickly. So in third normal form, you're looking for any non-key attributes. So you're looking for the nothing but the key. So if any of the non-key attributes do not relate directly to the primary key, then it comes out into a separate table. But in this instance, that one's fine. So it just gets copied to third. In the middle table here, all those fields we already established relate to all 3 of the attributes of the compound key, so that would just come across. So it's this table here. Now in our example, it gives you information about the shop as a separate table, and so that should help us identify that shop name, address, town and contact number are the fields that come out into a new table. Equipment ID, type, cost per week stays in the original table. So I'm just going to type that quickly. So I'll just quickly draw the primary keys in again. So equipment ID is the original primary key. It's only got type and cost per week now in its own table. Shop name, address, town and contact number has been moved into a brand new table, but it needs a link to this equipment ID table. So we have a foreign key called equipment name, equipment ID, sorry. That we add to that new table, mark it with a star, but it is not the primary key. The primary key is what makes the shop unique, and that is, in this case, the shop name. And now we've got our unnormalized data modeled into 4 different relational database tables at third normal form.